So you probably know that the video game industry is currently facing a massive reset with all the studio layoffs that's been happening for the past couple of years, IP cancellations, studio closures, and the whole malarkey with AAA unable to be provide value for the players, and they've been voicing their opinions quite harshly about this actually, and trying to look towards indies in hopes that they would bring some difference to the game. But the thing is that this had not happened overnight. This is a long, almost calculated result of several decades long legacy incentives that's been driving the industry and holding its grip tight, making sure everything stays in the rut and nothing strays away too far, otherwise crushed at the very source, which is now compounded also with corporate mediocrity, making sure safe bets and clones of the clones are seeing daylight and nothing experimental is shown to people, something that would elevate gaming to a whole new level. And despite the fact that a lot of major changes happened over the years, which are now compounding itself on top of each other, which we need to not just examine but to act upon. The fact that gaming has reached a technical limitation made it accessible for a lot of new people. The advance of mobile phones, handhelds, new consoles just made it so that the audience not just grew in numbers but diversified itself. According to ESA, half of the gamers are women these days, and if you look around, most of the games have nothing to do with them, absolutely nothing to do with them. They are just focusing on the same things they've been focusing on forever. That's not diversification. There's nothing, absolutely. Also mentioning the fact that the conscious consumer that's been slowly, steadily rising the past decade or so is also playing a role. That's the reason why games made in the past no longer work. It's not just a matter of fact that they say that, okay, I've seen this made 12, 20, 15 years ago. The fact that plays in this conscious customer thing, which is reported by the World Bank, by the way, that in 2024, 43% or something like that on the whole globe had tertiary education, which translates to the fact that in some countries that it's 50 or 60% or even higher. What I'm trying to say is that this results in a fundamental change of how people perceive games. They are no longer satisfied with mechanics and graphics alone. We need more to provide fulfillment. Because if you look at it, entertainment is not just the textbook fun of playing something. It is also something that you take in your consciousness, grasp it and try to analyze and make something with it. It's also part of the equation, not just the physical act of doing something. And this is something that the gaming industry just does not want to acknowledge or act upon. Because if we keep doing this, we keep on seeing the things that affect people negatively, like burnout, or the will to just give up gaming forever because they don't see anything in it anymore. They fall in depression. They don't find any kind of escapism, just even for a little thing, just a short amount of time to get away from all these horrors of the world we see today. If we look past this and if we try to act upon it, then we soon discover that fulfillment and chasing chasing something that has meaning and purpose and tries to grow out of this rut gaming is, then we would find something worth fighting for, something to look forward to. Because what we have today is not something that needs to be in the future as well. We can act upon it. We just need to act upon it and need to act upon it fast. Because otherwise nothing will change. No matter who you blame, because there's the thing that usually goes around in dev circles, that maybe it was the management, maybe it was the scale, the budget, the whole production line was not. It took too long. No, the problem is these are just excuses. the underlying issue with this is at the very core of it. As I mentioned, mechanics, stacking mechanics, and graphics no longer work because everything almost can look as the same couple of years ago now. Having new things in the game just does not suit the taste of this new audience I'm trying to describe to you, you yourself. If you're inclined to have something more cerebral, according to opposed to having just playing with bricks in a schoolyard. That's a very harsh reality of things. The industry just does not want to reconcile it with. So I don't know, but if you ask me, the future, which we should thrive for, should be where safe bets is no longer a thing. I want to see experimental games to see more daylight, not in just tucked away in the corner somewhere. I want to see purpose. I want to see maturity, experiences that are transformative, long lasting, making sure that I have my fulfillment other than playing with mechanics alone. It can be fun on a surface level, but if you're someone like me who grew up with games, this can get boring really quick. And gamers are full of it, and that's the reason why they see no incentive to try out new games, because they can just go back to something that has been done 15, 20 years ago, if it is supported on these new systems, of course. But they see no value in trying out new things because there's nothing for them to be compelling enough to try out, because mechanics and graphics just no longer suffice. They need something more, something they can take out of it, something that transcends this whole ecosystem of gaming, that moves them, that inspires them to become something that they can learn from, or they just question themselves that what worldviews they have, something that keeps them up at night, making sure they find answers for. These are the stuff that classical forms of media already reached billions of years ago, almost. Literature is a fine example of this, that it can reach way beyond its capability. On its own, it's just a collection of pages, nothing else. It cannot do anything, but it can transform, literally transform the world as you may never could imagine it. And that's what gaming can do and should do if we look forward to it and make sure the underlying mechanisms are there to support it, because we need to have a different mindset going into this, because the binary approach we have these days just no longer cuts it. It has to go, because it stems from a force perspective that everything has to be grindy and mechanics driven. That stuff can work for a certain percentage of people, but if you want to reach a general audience who want more from games, not just playing with bricks, then it's not enough. You can apply it to friend swap games, as they call it these days. The games that you can play with each other. That can only go so far. You need to rethink this whole approach from an entire different perspective. You need to make sure that the stuff that you use isn't there what game uses today. There's a whole other world you can explore and take inspiration from, other than what's in this narrow gap that gaming operates in. And this also means that you need to be brave enough to handle all of this change, to be experimental, to look for that sophistication I mentioned, that the devil, as in not just the detail, but the way you apply it, the fundamentals that you learn and to observe from the world, just copying something and making some incremental changes to an already successful title. We just not cut it. We've seen this already. Every other month, every couple of months, you've seen this in a game that comes out and fails to deliver because it didn't do anything else that it wanted to do based on a prior example that came before. And people are getting tired of this, which is why I've been trying my best to fight this and to make sure that the future that we are all to see is different. Because I want to see meaning, I want to see purpose, I want to see grown up, mature subjects that reaches us to the core and speak to us, have meaning we can learn from if we ought to. Not just talking about, don't think about this as an educational, that I learned how to drive a car or how to fix my computer. No, what I'm talking about is to change our personality, to even in just as small as interaction between your members of your family. Those small things you can also find in great works that moves you, that makes you think about your actions. Those are the kind of things that are missing from gaming. You don't see it because everything is solely action focused. And even if you try to, for God forbid, you try to deviate from that, it almost instantly gets written off as something completely distractive and prone to failure. But then again, you see examples coming out, sometimes from the woodworks, that just contradicts this by a huge margin. But of course, the legacy incentives are there to make sure everything is neatly stays in that rut and doesn't stray away too much from everything that gaming is today, which is why it is still culturally irrelevant as far as everything goes. So we need to make sure that the foundations are there and utilized as such, because it is very difficult to make something that lasts long enough to be remembered. And I cannot, for the love of God, think of anything that would come close to this remotely, which is a big issue that I'm trying to fight against, to make sure that everything has a meaning and a purpose, because stories should have a meaning and a soul. Otherwise, what's the purpose of making something just for the sake of making it? This is where the part that art is all about, expressive notions of the human being. Make sure that what you create is something other than the sum of its components. And there's the biggest issue the industry has, that they think that they can just shove everything together, mix it, and call it a day. There's no organic evolution behind all of this. It's just a mixture of ingredients, not a combination, an amalgamation of all, which is required to make something that lasts forever, technically. And that is the thing I'm striving for, to make sure that games are elevated to a whole new level, which it should have been risen to. But for some reason, it couldn't. So I hope you enjoyed my small talk, and see you later.